Hey everybody, welcome to today's update on Daily IoT. So on today's episode, I'd like to talk about the cost of my prototype run. In a previous episode, I said one of the lessons I learned going through this process was that the prototype run is an expensive step compared to your production run. And I was thinking about maybe I should give a little bit more insight as to what I mean by that, give more concrete numbers. I don't have an exact number, but let's talk through it just a little bit so you can have an idea of what kind of costs are incurred during the prototype run for a project like mine. And so the Puck project is not very complicated. There's not a lot of parts to it. There's a single PCB that goes in a case that goes inside the Puck. But some of the things that we need to do to make all that happen and get it all together starts with the Puck. So we've got pucks like these guys standing behind me here, just a regular regulation hockey puck. Maybe it's got a team logo on it, something like that. And we have to take that and we have to make it ready to stick our electronics inside. And to do that, we're going to CNC out the puck. And so we're going to take a normal puck like this and it has to go to a shop where they're going to cut a very exact hole in it, basically down into the depth of it, which will be where we will stick the case for the electronics in. And I don't have production costs on that yet, but the prototype run costs on that were pretty high. And a lot of that has to do with setting up tools and jigs and things like that to get just the right cut, testing it out with the CNC machine and things like that. And so to get my pucks CNC'd out, remember for my prototype run, I'm making 5. To get the 5 pucks CNC'd out cost me $75 a puck, which is pretty expensive. If that was my production cost, there was no way I could make this thing a profitable venture. That's just way too high. With the cost of the puck plus the CNC, you'd be close to $100, and that just wouldn't be sustainable. But again, for the prototype run, that's the cost just to get the puck ready to stick everything inside of it. So once we have that ready, we're gonna have, it's just a single PCB that has all the electronics that are laid out and designed that go on that. And then those sit inside of a plastic case. The plastic case will hold the PCB, and then the whole thing will slide into the CNC'd hole that's in the puck. And so the case is another fairly expensive part during the prototype phase. In a production scenario, you would go to a case manufacturer that they'll charge you a tooling fee, which in my case is like $5,000 or $6,000 to create 2 case pieces. So you pay that, and then the cost of the case is about, for low runs like I'm gonna do like 100, 1,000, it's gonna be about $5 per case. That makes the 2 halves that go together, hold the PCB inside, and then slide down into the puck. That's production. In my prototype phase, which I'm doing right now, those are just gonna be printed up through a service. Again, much higher cost, something like a Fictive or a Shapeways, something like that. I don't know who we're using for that. That's being handled on the agility side. But anyway, it's gonna be about $50 per case. So again, much higher than it will be in the production scenario, but that's the cost for doing a low run. And so everything else is pretty much close to on par with production. The fab and assembly for the PCB is going to be significantly higher. I don't have quotes for that yet, so I can't give you exact numbers on that. I figure I'm going to be somewhere around, to make 5 of these, I'm going to be somewhere between $1,300 and $1,500 is what I have as an educated guess. It should be pretty close to that. And so, you know, that's over $200 a puck. Obviously not something that would be sustainable in a production, but again, much more expensive in the prototype phase. Now, why do we do the prototype phase? Everything has been designed and reviewed and looked at, and it looks like everything is coming together. However, what you don't want to do is now make up 100 of these and find out that you have some weird trace wrong on your PCB, or you've selected a bad component from your bill of materials that makes things not work correctly, and then you've got 100 paperweights. It's just total garbage. You have to throw all of it away. You might as well flush the money down the toilet. And so to avoid that, you do a small run of a few, figure out any tweaks that you need to make them, and then go into production. Maybe. Now, if we get these prototypes back and we find a couple of bigger issues, I don't really have an example of what would classify as a bigger issue, but some bigger issue, you may want to do another run of 5 to make sure that you've got all of those worked out before you go into, in my case, like a run of 100. And so that's the idea. Get these, do some testing. We're going to do battery testing. I'm going to do some Wi-Fi range testing. I'll probably pass it around, let a few people use it, connect it to their home network to make sure that I don't encounter any weirdness with different types of routers and things. I don't have the resources to test this across like 50 common routers, and so my way of doing that will be to give it to a friend for a night and say, hey, make sure this connects to your home network, and that'll also help me flesh out sort of the connection process, the first use process, and things like that. And so that's the idea behind the prototype run. And so that's what we're doing. That's sort of the cost involved. I wanted to shine a little bit more light on that so you'd have an idea of what I meant by much more expensive than production. And so that's what we have going. Things are still moving forward. I'm really excited about this. Cool thing that I got today from Agility were these photorealistic renders of the puck. I felt like it was something you'd see on like a Kickstarter project that you could have made up when you don't have a product at all. And so put those up so you can look at them, kind of get excited about what it will look like. This is pretty close to what the final product should look like. And so that was very exciting to see. That got me really pumped up to do some work tonight, continue moving forward on the firmware. And so that is the update for today's episode. Question of the day. I didn't think about one beforehand. Let me think about it for a second. Okay. Recent news that dropped in the tech community, Microsoft buying GitHub. There's a whole nother episode about me talking about startups and VC funding, but Microsoft bought GitHub. Thoughts on that? Have you moved all of your repos over to GitLab, or thinking, I think it'll be all right under Microsoft? Put your opinion down in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. Also, if you're finding this journey interesting, please hit that subscribe button and send me an email, kevin@sidwar.com. I would love to hear where you're watching from, why you subscribed, get to know you a little bit better so I know who's on the other side of the camera here watching. So thanks again for watching Daily IoT, the show where together we're learning how to make the Internet of Things one day at a time.